Welcome to Benno and Hamflett in your house, a podcast reviewing WWF's iconic New Generation B-shows in order from the bust back to the boom, but not on Spotify. I'm Benno.
And I'm Hamflett. And Benno, when some naysayers would have said, don't start an In Your House podcast, were they half right? And should it have just been don't start a podcast? Do you think that was what they meant all along?
I think that's a good life lesson, to be honest. Probably something I should have learned 8 years ago. Before I poured 8 years of my life into this stuff, only for the dads at Spotify to tell me off and tell me I was wrong. Maybe my real dad should have had that conversation with me at some point. It's been a hell of a week, mate. It's been stressful, but if people are hearing this, that's good. So if people can hear us, then I think we've done well. We've broken through. We've managed to figure some things out this week. So we'll take that as a victory. And if we're moaning to nobody hears this, so that's good too. There's a win.
Do you think we've turned the karmic gods against us by bringing a spotlight to Beware a Dog? Do you think once we were the ones to finally go long on WWE's biggest technological nightmare, the universe went, right, let's get him. Let's take him down. And that's as soon as anybody gets anywhere near that podcast, it's like sort of opening like a witch's curse or something like that. You're just basically pricking yourself with a voodoo doll.
Pretty much that. I think that's what we've learned. Never be the Fed in 1996. I've been saying this. We should have backed the WCW horse. We could have been, doing the birth of nWo. We could have been following the Crow Sting over the next few months or so. We could have chosen a different path, mate. But instead, this is the life we've chosen to lead. But yeah, as I mentioned there, I have been working behind the scenes. If anybody hasn't seen, we had some issues on the GRAPPL side, completely unrelated. It's supposed to be a separate podcast. Unfortunately, there's an email address with the email address that I Benno and Hamflett set up on Spotify, and we've had some issues with Spotify this week, which means we're not available there. But by the time this comes out, and if you're hearing this, and there hasn't been a Benno in the future doing a little sad audio bit at the start of this that I'll stick on, things should be sorted. So yeah, if you noticed a bit of an interruption to your service, we're not going to be available on Spotify anymore, unfortunately, but we will be available on Podbean. Definitely, I can say Apple Podcasts, YouTube, of course, is always the guarantee. You can see our lovely faces. You can even install YouTube Music. I found that out while I've been away. YouTube Music has a podcast section. It's actually quite good. You get a bit of a mix of your YouTube shows mixed with your RSS feed. It's a useful little option. So yeah, thank you to the people who've searched us out. We thank you to a few people who sent us messages asking what was going on. But yeah, special shout out to the people who did find a way to find our episodes. You are doing one better than the Yanks when Dynamite moves to a Thursday or Raw goes an hour earlier, and everyone just looks at the remote like what's going on and doesn't know what they're doing. Our audience is much more intelligent than that, and they've found that way.
That's it, yeah. On any given Wednesday night with the preemptionists as well. That's the end of wrestling then. Where's my wrestling at 8:57? Maybe we've got this all wrong, Benno. Do you think to foreshadow a little bit of what we're going to talk about today? Do you think if we'd have just spun it as if it was us turning heel on Spotify, if it wasn't for Benno and Hamflett, the owner of Spotify, would still be selling meat off a truck, or just saying Benno and Hamflett 316 says we don't need Spotify. We should have made it seem like we left them rather than the other way around. That I never fancied her anyway. That could have been our take on Spotify. We've lost the high ground, haven't we? We've lost.
Look, Acast offered us that guaranteed bunch of money. We got those guaranteed podcast contracts, and that managed to move us over. That probably is like you say there. It probably is like what happened with WCW when WCW went off the air, went off Nitro, and Nitro stopped there. And was the last show? Was it a Saturday night? Was it WCW Saturday night or Pro? There's that footage, isn't there, where it's Mike Tenay and
really sad, isn't it?
Little studio. Worldwide, you know what it is? It's worldwide.
Yeah.
Do you wonder if there was some audience members out in America who that was just their only way of watching WCW, and when that ended, they were like, well, wrestling's done, and then flash forward 20 odd years later, and AEW suddenly appears on the same channel. It's oh, it's back! Oh, I didn't know these still did wrestling. I should go watch that. I should become a fan. Maybe that's where the numbers come from. Those mythical WCW fans who just disappeared after the invasion.
They've even heard Tony Schiavone's voice and thought, well, it's good that he's still been sat there the whole time. He's been waiting for the show to come back on.
Exactly.
Oh, man. It was indeed a simpler time. I've been really excited to record this one as well. I won't let this the Spotify cloud linger over this podcast like the ones did over Beware a Dog. We we sort of realised, didn't we? It was a little bit of a quirk of the calendar that typically the Housekeeping.
So we both got our haircut today. Yeah, it was crazy, wasn't it?
Well,
unbelievable.
That's like seeing as we're leading people towards a visual medium in this case. Anyway, this can be the plug for the YouTube fan.
We're in sync.
I know. I'm going to get you to do this. I'm not trying to like be sort of like Jerry Lawler in 1998, but I'm going to need you to take the clothes off me. I need you to give the people what they want and give them a look. What's underneath the hat?
My first haircut in about 2 months here. Hopefully, it's looking well on the video. Bit of a beard trim as well. I logged on thinking I'm gonna look sharp tonight for Benno and Hamflett. I look at Hamflett looking 10 years younger, mate. Looking fantastic.
Well, now that we're all in our 40s, I need to do something, don't I? But we're synced up as usual, Benno. It's a nice place to be.
I'm guessing mine was cheaper. I'm guessing I've no one who's made the saving there. Although I can imagine haircuts being cheap your end of the woods. You know, it's a bit like go down to London and like you see barbers where it's like £100 odd. In Liverpool, you can still find like that odd barber who'll do it for like just less than a tenner. It might be £8-9, or it might be like dad and lads for like 15. So technically, the dad haircuts are about 10, but it's still a rare thing. Not like that there London.
Mine crossed a tenner recently, and I like a little bit of me wanted to smash the place up. Like it's like a pint crossing the £5 threshold. You're like, what's gone on here? Like this is like we might as well just like live sort of by like Warriors rule or something at this point. But yeah, in contrast to other places, I've not exactly had the follicles to justify the spend for like a Tony and Guy or something like that. You know, like I had that moment when I attempted to grow it long as a sort of idiot 18, 19-year-old in the middle of the UK indie music
emo
boom.
fringe.
Yeah, the whole deal. There's a couple of pictures out there, surfacing out there somewhere. But it's like everything. Like my hair, I've still got it, which I'm blessed to have. But like it's really fine. Same. So as soon as it grew long, it just looked like it needed a wash because it would just like it would come in long and it would come in greasy. And I was like, I became like a dry shampoo devotee, and I'm not a man that likes effort with much. And it just I gave up the ghost.
Mine gets straggly. I was saying to you off air, like me dad's like got a full head of hair, you know, he's in his 60s at this point, and he's still looking great. Whereas unfortunately for my uncle, like my uncle went bald at about 18, and all of my cousins as a result all went bald at about like 18, 19, 20. But me and my brother Peter have managed to hold on to our lock so far, and I think it's the good genes there that dad gave me. You should have seen like obviously it was a bit. I'm in Vietnam at the minute still. I went to the barbers today. It was just to blow my load there. £3 was the haircut I got today. Like good quality one, you know. He's got the sides right and stuff like that. And very nice little fade on the sides. He's done well, but you could tell he was just like bemused by like the different directions my hair was going, just the waviness of it and just the straggliness of it. But like it's a whole different experience going to, like, it's a scary experience going to a barber's in another country. And like, you know, I once got a shave in New York. Remember the picture of me and John Pollock outside the Tim Hortons in Toronto where I'm looking freshly slaved? That's because I went into a barber's and asked for a number 3, assuming he knew what that meant, and he really didn't know what that meant. And basically just gave me a full shave and completely shaved the sides of my head off. So these things get lost in translation. It was honestly a terrifying experience. Like halfway through the haircut, he literally just was like, he pushed me backwards, and I hadn't really mentioned about the beard trim. And like, you know the way like in a barber's where like, you know, you lean back and they pull the little thing out the top of the chair, and you lean your head back. In Vietnam I learned you're basically like Shawn Michaels in 1996, you know, doing the press ups on that bar for WrestleMania 12. I was literally holding on for my life while he was giving me the shade. Blood was running to my forehead. It was like, I'm not athletic enough to manage this. And I felt like at any point that chair was going to go and I was going to be taking a bump. Obviously, you know, worker, I still remember to bump. I was ready to tuck my chin and you know, and take that like 1, 2, 3 kid taking a bump from Razor Ramon, as we're gonna get into. But Jesus Christ, it was a terrifying experience. He could see the fear in my eyes. I actually even though my haircut was only £3, he gave me a free coupon for my next haircut as well. So there you go, £1.50 per haircut. Can't beat it. But I think that was purely because you realised how terrified I was during it. I looked on like that Vietnamese barber chair, like probably what Leon White or Ray Traylor or any of the lads looked like when they were doing Japan in the 90s, you know. It was a hard graft going out. It wasn't built for such men, and I don't think Vietnam is built for me.
I think I'll take that. If you were Shawn Michaels doing the upside down chin ups, I'll be Bret Hart gingerly jogging because I tried to go out for a run in this heat wave at the moment, and I got about just to test myself like an idiot and 50 steps out my door, and I was like, we're not doing this. It has, I don't know, We haven't really talked much about this, like how you're coping with the general heat and humidity on your travels. But as you might have heard elsewhere on your other podcasts with like the GRAPPL lads and whatnot, like we as a nation, as usual, are not coping well with ours as well. I'm having like delayed trains because the track's melting or whatever it is. Like it's impossible. It's impossible heat to dress in. And then worse, when you're in our line of work, and we're very blessed to have loads of great engagement with Americans who just look at our stupid tiny island and laugh because they don't realize that we're not equipped to manage like the simple things like air conditioning or breathable houses built in Victorian times or whatever it is. It's just like, it's obviously when you're seeing like American, or whether it be like floods that have like alligators flying into their backyards or whatnot, you're like, you know what, I'll take our weather here in the UK, but we're just not built to manage heat of any kind, are we? Not at all.
I think there's two directions. I think one, we're incompetent, and two, we're just like you say, we're not built for it. Like my biggest two battles in life right now while I'm out here. Sorry, we'll get onto the wrestling stuff in a while. This is what you come to housekeeping for. Thank you for resubscribing, everybody who's now hit the unsubscribe button again. But yeah, the two biggest battles in life right now. One, finding something to eat each night, which is easy. It's cheap. Eating out every night, and it's like a weird stress. Like, which restaurant am I going to go to now? What a fucking amazing situation to be in. That's my biggest stress in life at the minute. But my other biggest stress is I just can't get body spray anywhere. Like I'm running very low on the batch that I brought from the UK. I was talking about this on GRAPPL this week. I think it's purely because like obviously the Vietnamese people here, like the heat doesn't bother them, and it's just like the gringos like me who are walking around. Like I've literally like all I've got is white and black t-shirts I brought from Primark. Maybe that's the problem, but I've literally threw half of them away because I've sweated through them and ruined them. And like the body spray in the shops is like £5 because it's like this delicacy that only the stupid travellers like me buy. So it's a big battle at the minute. So I just think they're built for it, they're used to it, and two, like you say, you have to smart enough to install fucking air conditioning units. Like why has that just never happened in the UK? Like even you go anywhere in Europe, like it's easy, isn't it? It's like they're not expensive devices. We just don't have them, and there's no heat wave at any point where we go, you know what, we're going to install a few of them. It's just I don't know, it's British kind of pig-headedness, I reckon.
I love the idea that like you'll have been talking about like these amazing food deals that you found in your cheap haircut and stuff, and people are like, God, Benno, when you were away, you must have saved a fortune. You'd be like, nah, I leveled off on antiperspirant. Like it's just worked out. Anything you've saved, you've had to spend on like any kind of deodorant. You've got.
This is my back doorway. Yeah.
Solitary bottle of Lynx Africa in a newsagent somewhere. It's like 15 quid, please, mate. Right there.
This is my backdoor way in to basically say to you, mate, you know, when you come to Bangkok next month, can you bring an extra suitcase and can you go to Primark the day before and get me a load of t-shirts and underwear, and then the next day just go to fucking Superdrug and just or Home Bargains, actually that's the place, and unload on like those shit Adidas like deodorants. I just want a case full of them. That would set me up for a year. So if anyone fancies sending me a care package or sending something along with Hamflett when you're out here, I'd appreciate it.
Just body spray. I'll try and remember that. Yeah, I'll see what I can get for you. It's you're very welcome. It's fitting. You know, we've talked about like a bit of male hygiene and that, and it's fitting, I would say, that here we are as two sprightly young men in their very early 40s. Belated happy birthday wishes to you, by the way, Benno.
Thank you.
Talking about our haircuts, when we thought we'd better dedicate a bit of extra time on this housekeeping to talk about two very bold men making very big swings over, like, it's quite remarkable and easy to forget, over a 14-day period in 1996. It is like simply unbelievable. Like so this would have been, obviously this is housekeeping. For those that, again, that are new to us here on YouTube, welcome. There's an entire archive of In Your House reviews. And typically we would talk about some of the events that took place on the pay-per-view that comes in between the In Your Houses, or on the various occasions where there's no pay-per-view, on we go to the next In Your House. But it didn't feel really appropriate, did it, to just quickly skim through the events of the King of the Ring, because, well, this was the King of the Ring. Austin 316 happens, and then before you even get to International Incident, the formation of the New World Order happens. So between Shawn and Bulldog go into a draw in a thunderstorm, and the return of Psycho Sid because the Ultimate Warriors bounced from the WWF, you've had inarguably the two single biggest moments of the 1990s take place over 2 weeks. That's amazing, isn't it? That is amazing.
I was trying to think then, because like you say 1990s, but like if you put a list together of the biggest moments in wrestling history, They might be 1 and 2, or they might be at the very least, top 3, top 5. Struggle to think of anything bigger. It's literally the formation of the boom of WCW that's to come, and it's the early days, because that is the thing. It's early days. It's not like the WWE version of the story, isn't it? Austin 316. He cut that promo, and then WCW were in the dust. I was like, no, there's a couple of years in the middle here that you have to suffer from first, lads, before we do eventually get there. But literally, the spark that ignites both boom periods happens here in June of 1996. Also my 12th birthday. All big things happened in June of 1996. Insane. When you put the notes together, I was honestly really both of them. I was like, both of them. And that's before we even talked the events of King of the Ring 96.
I'm supposed to do it chronologically and start with Austin. We went deep in, obviously, our first look at Steve Austin with the Savio Vega match. And I think that only gets better with age. I think we kind of both loved what we kind of rediscovered through that. And obviously seeing Austin tear himself away from Ted DiBiase and stuff. But what are your, because I didn't have Sky, and it was always stuff like that was always on a delay and was always on a wait. And I certainly wasn't aware about a cancelled Triple H push or anything like that. I was just happy to accept that Steve Austin had won the King of the Ring and off we go. What were your memories, or did you have any instant? Because I didn't, is the short answer. And I have to feel like anyone that says honestly that they was staring down the lens at Steve Austin staring back at you in that moment and went, there he is, the next megastar. They're lying, right? It was great, but only because he said ass and he called his shot and he didn't put the crown on. The rest of it was just a baddie's won the King of the Ring. Let's see where we go.
I mean, you can go back further, and I'll crack one for Steve in the tradition of the great podcasters. There we go. There's a crack for you, Steve. It's actually a Coke. It's not a Steve Weiser. But anyway, it's 10p. Brilliant. But for me, you go back further. It's because I spend a lot of time talking to JP and Gareth on GRAPPL, and they like me reminding them that they're a couple of years older than me and you are, mate. They're into their 40s. We're just starting our 40s. But I always like putting them on the spot and talking even earlier, Steve Austin, because again, the WWF version of history is that this is where it starts, and oh my God, Steve Austin came out of nowhere, and nobody could have possibly realized that when he was the ringmaster, and that was never gonna be his future. But anybody who was paying close attention to WCW in the 90s, or Meltzer, I've read a lot of those old observers,
Power
they
Slam,
were all pointing out Power Slam as well.
Him.
Oh, Finn Martin was pushing it massively, wasn't he? Stunning Steve Austin and Pillman too. It was the two of them, really, wasn't it? It was Hollywood Bonds as an act. But and you got to realize as well, they were doing this when Austin was, because his career is very short. It's barely a decade. It's barely over a decade, isn't it? Steve's in-ring career, which is insane considering all the middling WWE guys we have to deal with over the 2010s into now, still going with double that length on their resumes. It's a crazy short run that he has as an overall career. But those people were putting him in that position right away. Obviously Heyman recognizes it in ECW right away. For me at the time, I was a bit young, I was 11, about to turn 12, and kind of he was the ringmaster who knocked around with Ted DiBiase. To be honest, my main memories of this King of the Ring 1996 are really wanting Jake the Snake to win and falling for the whole Bible bashing thing. To be honest, I might have said myself a little prayer the night before, just playing with my wrestling figures, hoping that Jake the Snake was gonna fight through and win the King of the Ring the next day. So I was blissfully unaware of it at the time, and it seems it's one of those things where it's depending on who's writing the history. If it's WWF, no one saw it coming. But to be honest, if it's anybody who was paying close attention to Steve Austin's career to this point, it actually felt inevitable for a lot of those people. It seemed.
I remember the Ultimate Warrior was on the poster for it. I think on the back of one of the magazines. It was either the Raw magazine or the WWF magazine from that era, and it was still weird seeing the Ultimate Warrior next to the King of the Ring pay-per-view logo, but it just added to my, I think because I won't have seen the Goldust in Your House match by that point, it just added to my excitement that Warrior was back in the mix, and I was still willing to go along with this idea that he was sooner or later he'd be back in the main event. And then when he does, and when he comes out to help Shawn Michaels with Ahmed Johnson at the end for the short-lived People's Posse, and seeing them chase off Camp Cornette, something felt right. The pieces had been reset, and Shawn was the guy, Ahmed was my next guy, and now Warrior's in the frame. It's all complete until we get Brett back, and then you've got the perfect Survivor Series team. I'm set. I'm good to go, you know. And I don't remember anything other than like that being my biggest takeaway of King. That and the fact that there was that massive crown hanging above the light fixtures, and they only put the semi-finals on the pay-per-view, so I didn't think the wrestlers had to work as hard as they had for the prior years. I thought it was like an easier tournament because of that.
Makes sense. I was thinking the same thing. Obviously, it gets even shorter in subsequent years. But that's my other two big takeaways. Genuinely, you live the same life. Jake the Snake winning the King of the Ring is what I wanted, and like the idea that all the goodies will be together at the end of the night. The fact that like Steve Austin's like winning the King of the Ring and as the next guy is the furthest thing from my mind. What's on my mind is that Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson are best friends, and who could be better to be the third friend in that group? But my other favorite wrestler, the Ultimate Warrior, the three big goodies all being big mates. Like, yeah, that was the headline news. That's probably what I was screaming about in the playground the next day. But I think even if we were older, I think it's like if Austin's rise happens after this, but like it's not like, because that's the thing, a lot of WWE documentaries will pinpoint this as like the start of the Attitude Era, and again we've got the NWO to get through first, and things of the bottom's really got to come out first before it happens. So it's kind of somewhere between the two extremes. I think it's like one, as long as they give Austin the ball, he was always going to run with it, no matter what. Yeah, he's out there with Jake the Snake, and that's where Austin 316 comes from. But like, I'm sure he did. If it had been Triple H at the other side of the ring, I'm sure he would have come with something else. It would have been, he would have been selling Hell No t-shirts or something, or he would have figured some kind of black t-shirt with white writing. You know what I mean? That was the selling point. But like obviously the other thing we're going to talk about today, I think he was inevitable, and it would eventually happen regardless. But again, doesn't happen as big as and as quickly as history told by one company would have you believe.
Well, to sort of to switch over a little bit to. Yes, all of 2 weeks later when the New World Order form. And something I was thinking about, and I don't want to like jump too far into actually the events of International Incident and obviously the changes that we all know that we're going to get to from this potential main event. But do you know what else I'd never put together before until I was kind of viewing it through this lens? Is that like, do you think that they made a choice, they being WWE, made a choice to put Shawn, Ahmed and the Ultimate Warrior together at this specific moment to try and make a better looking 3-on-3 match, knowing that WCW are about to do the same at Bash at the Beach? Because that struck me as quite the coincidence. Like, were they trying to counter program Bash at the Beach before it even happened? Like, don't worry about whoever Hall and Nash's partner is. The ancient down in WCW. We've got the real stars. We've got Shawn, Ahmed and the Warrior versus Camp Cornette. That's way bigger than whatever Hall and Nash have got planned. Like, that's got to be it. Like, both July pay-per-views had 6-man tag main events, and that just feels, how WWE counter program AEW here in 2012, just with this like kind of on the nose. Oh, you're in that building. Well, we're running it first then. Fuck you. Like, do you think they, like, Vince McMahon in his mind genuinely believe that like my babyface superpower team is going to be better than your heel superpower team? I don't care who your third man is. Like, my babyfaces are better.
It's very 1990s, because absolutely I can believe Vince McMahon believing that, but it's like in a Vince McMahon brain's like 1996 way of doing it. Because if this happened like 20 years later, if this happened like around now, like it would have been working a sheep brother, wouldn't it? It would have been Mabel would have been the third man, but in the WWF, there's your swerve, bro. And Alfie comes and he's there teaming with like it's instead of Sid, it's Mabel at the end, like holding up arms with Shawn and the lads. Like that's the way they go. Him, Ahmed and Shawn are the new trio to mess with, because like obviously that's the it ends up not being Mabel, or I think Yokozuna rumored as well as possibly being a guy that ends up on the other channel as well. But I could absolutely see like the Vince McMahon brain wearing of like, we've got to do that one better, we've got to figure that out.
It's well, obviously, because there was a Bulldog re-signing, wasn't there? So he was then struck off as the possibility. There was always Brett's suspicions, because it was still like Brett's status was still a little bit unknown unless you were really deep in the weeds. And then obviously, infamously Mabel as trivialized by Eric Bischoff, because Meltzer was only reporting what he'd heard as a possibility, and he was quicker to Hogan than most people, despite what Bischoff will tell you on his grifter circuit. But do you
remember what you thought? Like, were you watching like the Nitros at the time? Because I remember distinctly the Razor one when he first comes in and he's in the crowd. I remember the one with the two of them in the commentary desk, and I remember the build to the match, but I don't remember like ever thinking, it could be Hogan, or it could be anybody from like the WWF end, or maybe I just wasn't imaginative enough.
No, it was like, it was hard enough for me to get tapes of WWF at this point because like the reality of the bust was in, the fix was in, and people just like my dad's work colleagues just either wouldn't be asked to find wrestling or just assumed it no longer existed. So getting him to sell them on taping my wrestling was getting harder and harder. So WCW, I didn't stand a chance, like that being sort of even more off to the side in the UK as it was for a long time. Power Slam was my link really to WCW at this point. And I remember, they were quick to stuff. So I remember reading about Hall and Nash arriving before knowing who the third man was going to be. But watching, it took years really before I was able to see a lot of the visuals play out. I remember getting Sky in 1997. It still wasn't like you were going to get old reruns of Nitro. But when I discovered WCW on, I think it was DSF on the German channels.
Oh, I've got a story.
They would very randomly, like sometimes just knock out archive clips, or you'd see old stuff for some reason. And I didn't know any German, so a lot of it was just random and luck anyway. And I remember catching, for some reason, they were airing like an abridged old Nitro, and it was the one where the one where like Hall and Nash come out, and I think Harlem Heat win the tag titles because there's such a distraction and the cops have got the guns out. And I think it's like Harlem Heat being like, oh, we'll just take advantage. And is it the pin sting and the tag belts? Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's standing around. It's like, it's the original distraction finish, innit? It's the original Raw finish.
And that was like, I'd seen that clip, and obviously I'd seen all the still images of like through Power Slam and through this point, loads of other coverage in 96 and 97. But I remember that being some of the first footage I was actually able to watch. And like as for Hogan's heel turn, again, it was the images in the, I think we've discussed this before, like the images, Power Slam put him on the cover as quick as they could in the black. You remember when he first came out for the Disney tapings and he was in, but it wasn't NWO brand and it was just black. And it kind of looked like 1995 dark Hulkamania Hogan.
Well, he still thought it was called the New World Organization of Wrestling at that point, didn't he?
Yeah. The black beard. And I remember it, like, me and Sidgwick have discussed this on like when we've done a bit of like what culture coverage on the NWO. It was sort of like, hang on, like is WCW like a bit of a scary place all of a sudden? It was the first time my fed brain, my very sort of well-controlled fed brain, had stopped thinking all the wrestlers are old and they've just taken WWS cast-offs. And in fact, it was like they've taken the cast-offs, but this is like some dark alternate timeline. Like a hole has been ripped open in the universe. And I remember going around to a mate's house. This has just come back to me. Going around to a mate's house and having TNT on a Friday night. And Miss Elizabeth was wearing the sequined NWO dress. And I was like, they've gotten to Miss Elizabeth. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, WCW was such an evil landscape that it's turned Miss Elizabeth like NWO. I knew that she turned with Flair, but now she's like black sequin dress, New World Order. Like, this is, I have to know more. I have to see more. It was mind blowing.
I had a similar, like DSF like plays into it for me as well, but I had like a similar kind of like thought process along the time because I was watching Nitro on TNT on those weeks and saw Hall, turn up on TV, and like I was using DSF. So I always mention this on GRAPPL Retro shows, so bear with me if you're a GRAPPL listener. But my two kind of, I don't know, bits of advice if you're a mid-90s wrestling fan who's time traveling or has found a way to go back to 1996. The two things that were good advice for me were, one, if you went to a Mega Bowl down the street and rang the Power Slam hotline, they couldn't hear you until you put 10p into the phone, but you could hear them, so you could ring any 0891 number you wanted as long as you didn't want to talk back. I'm sure whoever it was at my local Mega Bowl ended up with a gigantic phone bill about me going down there every Saturday and trying to get the scoops off the Power Slam hotline or 0891 299 888, the old WWF hotline. But yeah, it was a fantastic tip to get the news, but I wasn't quite at that point yet. I was still getting my tips. My other big tip for mid-1996 wrestling fans was DSF had a teletext page. So like I was doing German in school, So I used to go on that teletext page, and they had it was like a wrestling letters page, and every Tuesday after Raw and Nitro, obviously aired in America, they'd have the results there, and it wasn't hard to work out. I think the German word for over is Oder with a D. It's not. You can usually figure out what each of the words means. And I remember when Scott Hall debuted, they ran a story on it called Invader 1. Obviously, the term outsider wasn't created at that point. And then the story the Tuesday after, obviously Nash appeared on Nitro, said Invader 2 Diesel. And I remember telling the entire street going, I was happy to be spoiled. I was like, when we watched Nitro, or it was probably the week after, wasn't it? Because it was usually I think it was a 2-week delay at that point. It's when it gets onto Nitro next week, we're going to get to see Diesel in WCW. So I was well ahead of the game. I knew it was coming. And I did the same thing with Hogan, Invader 3, Hulk Hogan. At that point, I'm not sure I fully believed it, but it was I guess that makes sense. He's weirdly not in the match. That's that kind of works. And then having that long wait to actually see it happen on Nitro the 2 weeks later. It's the same way I followed the Sting and Hogan match that would eventually happen at Starrcade 97. Got the result from that because I just couldn't wait. You have to do these things when you're a wrestling fan in the 90s, mate, without America Online or an internet connection. You have to find your way in. So yeah, I was ahead of the game.
I don't know what this says about us as young fans, and I'm probably going to regret putting this story out on the internet forever and ever for the rest of time. But my memories of DSF teletext were mostly confined to those pages where, all right, here come these words that I never thought I'd say in a public forum. Teletext pornography. Any memories of that? Why did DSF teletext have grot pixel?
Mate.
Do you remember it? And it was this is the point. Here was me, and I can, like yourself, I consider myself somebody that will dive too deep when it comes to wrestling. And I never found those wrestling pages you speak of. And a little bit, as you were telling that story, I was loving that you were able to run out the street while simultaneously angry that I wasn't doing the same in my street as a kid, because I would have given anything to have had those scoops. And yet, I was still able to tell my mates that if you go to a certain number, you can see a pixel silhouette of a naked woman made out of teletext sprites. Why? Why?
It was a different time. It was all we had. I'm pretty sure, because I got in trouble once. Again, we're getting into a very deep Benno and Hamflett memories here. I got in trouble once for my mum and dad coming home from a night out on a Friday or Saturday night and putting the telly on, and me being a fucking idiot, I'd left the German channels on, and they'd have softcore porn on past midnight, wouldn't they? On I think it was the same channel as DSF, because I'm pretty sure my excuse when my mum came bolting upstairs to tell me off in bed for having that dirty stuff on downstairs was a genuinely innocent. I was just watching the wrestling. I was just watching WCW. I don't know what they show after it. It's a bit like that, the Playboy Television X preview that would be on
Sports 3
on a Friday, on Sky Sports 3 on a Friday. It was that plausible deniability. It was I was just watching Raw. I don't know what they put on after that. Same thing, but it was probably genuine in 1996. All I wanted to see was the odd bits of ECW that they'd show and the bits of, again, I didn't know at the time, but the full WCW pay-per-views they'd show on there. I never quite got my head around that bit that it was on in a delay. I think I caught the odd one, but I didn't know.
Power Slam. Somebody put a letter into Power Slam in about 99, 2000 and revealed that about the pay-per-views. I remember that and I was so angry that I hadn't been told. Surely an outlet should have told me that I could have been watching WCW pay-per-views all that time. I vividly remember being quite cross with that. So just for the sake of public record, Benno, if you didn't leave DSF on by accident for your parents to find, let's just say if you went one up in the planner and went on to Vox, you could definitely find more pro wrestling on Vox.
Oh, maybe that's what I did. Maybe I wasn't so innocent.
I definitely recall finding plenty of the commercial breaks on Vox were enough.
That and Eurotrash, it made us a man, mate. It made us what we are.
Oh, it did. Eurotrash was a friggin' assault course, man. You never knew what you were going to get. Hogan turning.
Yeah, there's a link there, but I won't make you make it. But carry on.
Try and steer us back. Yeah, we're talking Terry Bollea or Hulk Hogan. Was
luckily he didn't die before we recorded this. Anyway, carry on.
That'd be the first ever time we'd have to break the feed and do a second housekeeping, wouldn't it?
I think we would.
I was like junior Dr. Fed. I still remember thinking that's pretty huge and I need to see it. And but I still remember thinking however you construct these thoughts as a 11-year-old, 12-year-old, whatever. I want to watch that, but I cannot see anyone else caring. I was so like naive to the size of it, like, and just what had just happened, and what was so like, in 2025, to use the John Cena comparison, what's been one of the many depressing things about the failure of the John Cena run was how it's really chipped away at the impact of the moment, because living through the John Cena turn as an adult, like, I got to feel what it must have been like to live through the Hulk Hogan turn. But the people that got the Hulk Hogan turn as an adult got the follow through and got the amazing several months of stories and got the amazing feeling of this thing not just being a moment, but being a complete turn of the tide, a complete transformation of how wrestling television would work for the next couple of years. Like, I'm so envious isn't quite the word, but I am a little bit jealous of the people that were able, the Americans especially, who bought the pay-per-view, saw it, were gathered, glued to Nitro, and probably barely even flicking to Raw the next night, because you wouldn't you? There would be absolutely no chance you would be able to pull yourself away from Nitro for those first 6 or 7 weeks in the aftermath of Hulk Hogan's heel turn. I watched the turn, and let's just say hypothetically, if me and you were going to have a longer form conversation about this turn sometime in the near future, and I ended up watching the entire full Nitro after Bash at the Beach, knowing that Hogan's not even on it. I remembered that Hulk wasn't on it.
It's the week after,
the second week. But I wanted to watch the rest of WCW reacting to it again. I wanted to remember. I'd always remembered that, like, the Nasty Boys were kind of quasi heels, because they'd be the first, like, they were showing their arse a bit for the NWO, weren't they? And like, just I love it when something so massive happens that the whole world, the company stops. And they had one. They had one, and like, what an incredible thing.
It was like it's the reversal, isn't it, of what, like, it is a wrestling trick that would often happen with Hogan, but WCW would do its thing in the 90s. But like, every other babyface would get a promo of like, I just want to send my best wishes to Hogan, or I want to send my best wishes to Sting. Like, it's that, isn't it? But it's the other way around. It's like every babyface, every heel, every promo, every segment has to talk about it. Because, like, for me, it was like, again, you mentioned it's similar to the Cena one. Like you say, the difference is it was good, and the follow-up was good. It was and it was entertaining. But like, just again, similar. The thing that's similar about the Cena one is it's the pure idea of it. That's what I was running out to the street to tell me mates. That's what I was telling my cousins. It was like, you won't believe it, Hulk Hogan's a baddie now, and guess what? He's wearing black. He doesn't wear yellow and red anymore. Like, these are just gigantic things that, like, you couldn't picture. Like, it sounds daft now, but it was the thing that you genuinely believe would never happen. And I guess today's fan kind of gets to see a similar thing with Cena, but I don't know. It doesn't feel quite the same. But I remember selling that really hard, and then like I mentioned it, didn't I? That like I was a WWF kid gigantically and was never really into WCW until this period. And I think we might have pinpointed the moments. Like I keep saying, I stick with Shawn to the bitter end. Like, he's my guy this year. This is like I'd say my biggest year of fandom in my entire life. Like, follow along the Shawn World title run. But my head does get turned, and I think it's this. I think it's not realizing how, but also not realizing like how much it grabbed me. And I was, that person who was watching Nitro every week to see what happened, because it's the type of thing Eric Bishop would say in a podcast now. You roll your eyes, but they did deconstruct wrestling TV, like, and then the NWO literally does that on telly, ripping down signs and holding up the NWO signs and all stuff like that. It was completely different to anything you'd seen before. This wasn't wrestlers feuding with each other. This was the NWO trying to take down WCW. The wrestlers who were feuding with each other, like you mentioned there with the Harlan Heat example, 4 Horsemen in the Dungeon of Doom were still having their matches, but they all had to watch over the shoulder because the thing that was bigger than the matches and the regular stories, it was almost like this third element, wasn't it? Like this reverse third wall being broken that was added to things that made you want to watch it every week. And then you added in Sting, obviously, later in the year, and it's off to the races. And I was completely caught up in it, even from this early stage. And Nitro became more important viewing than Raw did over this year, and I didn't even realize it was happening to me for most of this time.
I always thought, I've always quite liked this in kind of like that strange, neat and tidy way that wrestling works sometimes. I've always thought that like the 90s is the story of 3 years and all 3 companies, and how effective they were able to grab the zeitgeist and then monetize it. So like in 1995, ECW's never had its finger so tightly on the pulse, but ECW as an organization is simply not equipped enough to monetize it to its ultimate end. You can there's always that kind of like stunted growth, and then there's always the supposed like need for pay-per-view. And by 1996, that's already fallen off a little bit. By the time 97 arrives, like creatively, the peak has passed a little bit, but they're on paper. But by then, like 95 would have been it if there could have been any time. And then in 1996, WCW captures the zeitgeist with the NWO, and clearly, like in terms of merchandising, that at very least they're able to do, and in terms of like being able to start justifying how many of the big contracts they're giving out and how much money they can justify spending, because Bischoff basically overnight, doesn't he, makes himself a proven commodity. Like the Hulk Hogan signing was the one thing, but then, you know, by 1996, it's Flair and Savage that are drawing, not Hulk Hogan. So without the NWO, you kind of wonder how that relationship might have gone longer term. But even then, WCW is almost powerless to the egos and the money flowing through Hall, Nash, and Hogan, that even that can't effectively monetize it. And then 1997, Steve Austin is the zeitgeist, but WWE was always the one that was a tighter organization and able to maximize it. And it's those 3 years and it's the story of those companies and what's the ceiling of growth. ECW's hits that peak in 96, WCW's hits that peak in 1997, WWE hits that peak forever. You know, that's almost those three companies crystallized, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you make that point about ECW. I've never really thought about it this way, but like, absolutely, ECW it's kind of like a paradox, really, isn't it? In that, like, if they could have got onto TV, if they could have gone onto pay-per-view, then they kind of lose some of their USP, because their USP was, if only their USP was, we're so original, our ideas are so great. But if only, like, that's part of it. If they'd have become part of the corporate machine, I don't think it would have been, what it was, sold as. WCW, absolutely. It's the same thing that happens when Brett comes over, isn't it? And how many times did they run in Canada? Like twice, I think, in the entire time that Brett's there. They never become like a mature enough company to capitalize on it. Yeah, they could be as hot as they arguably in this period become the hottest the company has ever, and running up there close with Austin, but they don't make anywhere near the money that WWF make with Austin and WWF make for the 20 years following, because that's the company that is set up. It's got the people who do the different jobs in the different departments and all those grown-up things you need to run a proper company that maybe AEW have learned over the last few years that you need to capitalize on that. Absolutely. But again, it took ECW with their blueprint to give you the attitude here. And I think the NWO period is very much the blueprint for Austin 316, the t-shirts and all of that style, DX form, and similar to the NWO and all of that. I think obviously the format of the TV as well that Bischoff would break over this year is a big thing too. So both ECW and WCW kind of need to walk, don't they? So the Fed can run.
That's it. It's one thing after another. And then that's again, I've spent my life as a Sunderland fan, which is why in wrestling I like to back the winners. It's like I like to sort of 1997, which we'll obviously get to in more granular detail in your house. I think we obviously we share the love for that year because we're right ultimately. But like, it is quite remarkable that commercially WCW crushes WWF when so much of WWF's creative output smokes WCW's. It's like quite. I always think it's like a year in wrestling now is what we've discussed this. You and Matty have kind of like talked time and how much it used to last so much longer in the past than it does today because of like the sense of churn on a weekly television show. But it's mad that like July the 7th, 1996 is when the NWO forms. By July 1997, Bret Hart and Steve Austin have already had the last singles match. Like the program that is going to make Steve Austin has already concluded. And it's kind of, WWF are off to the races and they know it and you can feel it. And a lot of other things have to play out a certain way. But like, that's only a year into WCW's Golden Goose idea. And insane. Already WWE's golden egg has been laid and it's their time. The rocket is already ready to launch in WWF and we've only had 12 months of the New World Order. It's like now that like we're still kind of Triple H is clinging on to this WWE boom by his fingernails, desperate for it not to end. I know like commercially you can't talk about it anymore because of TV money, but creatively, like things are still going well enough that he can still say, it's still good. You've got enough things kicking around. Like he's not going to let this boom go creatively for as long as he can justify, as long as there's like a Cody Rhodes or somebody, he's going to say, we're fine. Like, and we're what? Like we're 2-3 years removed from Cody signing for the company and like WrestleMania 39 and all that. These things just last so much longer now. They were sprinting through it back then.
And again, that's a more, adult grown-up company being able to capitalize on it for longer and make more money off less, like say the last 20 years aren't, the most exciting was ever, but it was the most they were set up to make profit, compared to the minuscule profits they make across this period once Austin gets hot. But I think with the overall point you make there, that's just true of all wrestling, isn't it? There's always that. It's hard to get hot, and it's actually hard to lose it too, because a lot of the time it comes with a delay. ECW, like we mentioned there, like the attention on them comes when Payman's past his creative peak. WCW take the Hogan thing, it ignites the spark, and then fans like me stuck around. The Wolfpack, they're still good. They're fighting the NWO Black and White. It's still good. There's still Goldberg. It takes a while to break that habit for you to realize, shit, this isn't as good as it used to be. It's just as hard to lose it as it is to gain it in a lot of ways, and obviously that would be true of the Fed too.
This takes us actually this chat quite nicely to our 5-star match review today, which will give you the different places in which you can leave those 5-star reviews currently in the absence of Spotify. But it was a jarring one today, because we kind of thought now that we'll never see the Kliq again in their fullest form, in our timeline at least, this would be the day to do Sean Murphy's request. Thank you, Sean, of the Kliq Tag. And I'll get to the full message in a second, but
ties it all
that takes us. Well, this is it, right? And it takes us back to 1994, which just predates the start of our In Your House timeline, and that reminder of what houses looked like, and this Action Zone taping, and where WWF was at visually in 1994, as opposed to, say, the new Hulk Hogan and Friends led WCW. Again, you flash it back just 2 years, less than that, 18 months really. And in that time, Hulk Hogan had made WCW his cronies playground, and Vince McMahon was so obsessed with the idea of the new generation that we were getting something like this Kliq Tag on an Action Zone on a weekend C show, drawing 1,500 people maybe in this building, seeing this futuristic bit of business. It's I don't know if you'd get such schizophrenic times now as you did back in the 90s.
That's what I was going to ask you, because to my memory, again, very young during this period, would have been, wouldn't have even turned 10 at the time of this tag. I always just remembered Action Zone as being the one where, Pettingill, is in front of the camera. I don't really remember it ever being a bigger show than that, because that's what happens, isn't it? Most of the WWF shows, it's like Rampage and Collision. They start as an A show, and then eventually down the line, it's Saturday night's main event has become main event, or Shotgun Saturday night has become Shotgun, or Superstars has become what Superstars have become. I don't remember the glory days of Action Zone. I was thinking, I don't think there were any. Was this it? I'm guessing by that intro that it it didn't pass me by. It never actually happened, and it is strange to put all the big stars out there like they do here. Yeah,
the abridged history of Action Zone is very much that. They had I think the debut episode had Brett and Owen for the title, and it was billed as Owen's last shot because it followed SummerSlam.
Oh, I've seen that. I remember that now. Yeah,
and then this was either the second episode or a very early one. I, however, was the unfortunate soul that in the last days of them still promoting Action Zone main events like they mattered, I got a tape off, again, one of my dad's work colleagues or an uncle or somebody, that had the big grand payoff to the Lex Luger to Tatanka feud of 1994 that crawled into 1995. And they were selling you on, it's Luger and Tatanka, the big payoff tonight. You finally get it. It's going to be on Action Zone. And if that isn't an indicator of how they're giving up on that show, I don't know what is.
It's over. And they're giving up on those lads too. I think that's the other giveaway.
But yes, I will say this is a good point. Sean Murphy, thank you very much for your review. If you want to be like Sean and leave us a review, you can do currently on Podbean. If you want to resubmit your 5-star review through Apple Podcasts, or leave us a comment on YouTube, or basically anywhere you can find these podcasts at the moment,
let us
Spotify.
Know. Yeah,
anywhere but Spotify. If we don't see it in the notification, send us a screenshot through on social media, and we'll count it in there for the time being, and we will add it to our spreadsheet, our running spreadsheet. But this one from Sean Murphy did come through a couple of months ago. Sean says, love this pod, a love letter to an era that gets grossly underlooked and underappreciated. Couldn't agree more, Sean. Brings me right back to going to my mate's house who had Sky and watching whatever I could get my hands on. Yeah, I remember manipulating those friends as well. The worldwide leader in sports.
Shout out to Barry Grundy.
Thank you, Sam Dawson. For my 5-star review, Shawn Michaels and Diesel versus Razor and the 1-2-3 Kid from the 30th of October 1994 edition of Action Zone. Thank you very much, Sean. Only too happy to oblige. 4 guys that only got a C show to have this match. Presumably, as we're about to discuss, Benno, a match that they must have talked through on about 100 separate road trips. Because how often when you were watching this did you think, yep, that spot was come up with in the car, that counter was one they thought about. This plays out like this beautifully constructed road trip made real, doesn't it?
All I'm picturing now is that, like, me and you need to get this commissioned by HBO or something like that, the Kliq Road Diaries, and like just make it like a show where we recreate the conversations, the different. And you get that people coming and going. You know, eventually Hunter starts carrying the bags. Just Incredible puts in a performance every now and then. Louis Spicolli is in there for the odd episode as like a guest star. Like that's all I can picture now. Whenever I watch these matches, I can picture from our conversations the back and forth and the conversation, and like I think that's exactly what's going on here. You know, we talk about 1996. Like it's the doldrums, you know. The doldrums have been going on a while, you know, and 1994, as you say, there is very much so, very much rebuilding period, very much, you know, pushing that new generation moniker. And I feel like, literally the 4 of them were like, everyone else here is shit. We're the fucking best. Let's go out there and fucking show them. Like, I've not seen, I don't know if you've seen anything or any like interviews or like how this match came out. I could honestly picture Sean going, I'm not working with any of these cunts. Tell Tatanka to fuck off. I'm working, me and Diesel are working with Kid and Razor, and that's all I want to do tonight. Like, I feel like that conversation must have happened because it feels, obviously it's a notable match that I think a lot of people listening to will have watched before because it did get a lot of buzz at the time and years since. But for me, it feels like those 4 lads going, no, we want to show everyone that we are the future. Fuck all these shit ones. It's us.
100%. I've definitely seen, I think, like on the Hall and Nash shoots where they both laugh about how much they were bumping in particular. Like there's, I'll get to it in the body of the review, but there's some light switches from Kevin Nash in this that he'd never do again in his entire career.
Running shoulder blocks.
Like you just, the Warrior shoulder block, man. And like the idea that it's always with the Kliq, right? Simultaneously, as you've just put it, we're going to have to go out there and show people. Like, is this, depending on how you spin it, this really positive, forward-thinking, progressive, right, let's change the business because it's not going to be Piper and Lawler doing it in the main event of King of the Ring, so we'll do it ourselves. Scruff for the next stuff. On the other hand, it's also pretty cunty, isn't it, to want to go out there and do it with your mates, and then if you can't be arsed, dog it for Dean Douglas a year later, or whoever it is that's coming in that you don't like making Bam Bam Bigelow the third wheel while you're knocking out tag matches like this with your mates. It's like, it's simultaneous. Like, you know, we're both Shawn guys, but the reason why I'm a Brett guy equal to being a Shawn guy is, you know, that Brett would try and have a match of this quality with anybody, whereas these wouldn't do it with everybody.
Yeah, it's like it feels like Peep Show. This this is all the world is. People walking into rooms and people getting. There's always going to be like that inner sanctum. There's going to be that inner layer. Those little groups at work that you don't know about. You know, I wonder why they go in the office together. Because any promotion you've ever known has usually happened because they know the right person, because the face fits, because of their mates, and that's exactly what this is too. It's making sure the mates get the promotions and the mates get the good spots. That's literally the Kliq's USP, isn't it? But probably not that far into most workplaces as well. Just it's funny when they do it. It's not when the BSK do it, but it's funny when they do it.
We've made that rule explicitly clear. If this was Godwin's, I'm not asked, but this is the Kliq, so it's different. It counts.
But that's the thing, isn't it, though? Because it's like, as much as like the gobshites, as much as the dickheads, they are, as we're going to get into this match, they're good. It's not like the shit houses. It's not like they're making you sit through shit. They're actually making you sit through the good stuff, you know, outside the Hunter in different elements. So that makes it more forgivable too.
100%, man. And to that point, I'm going to go through this match review. I'll have to stop to take breaths, like I was having to pause the match to take notes. But feel free to just put through and cut me off if you want to gush, because there'll be various chunks of this where there is so much action to recap from these 4. Like, it's a whirlwind. We've got a very, very hyped up Vince and Todd on the call. Now, I know to some people, Vince McMahon and Todd Pettengill will feel like nightmare fuel, but I actually thought they were the perfect energy for this match. There was something like speed muscle in TNA about this match, and like Vince McMahon and Todd Pettengill having this matching, almost childlike energy seemed to suit this in a way that I don't think they would suit many other matches. You have obviously the champions are in the ring first as the heels, but then Razor and the Kid come out to the ring, getting a massive response. And Vince notes on commentary that Razor's wanting to become a double title holder like Diesel was, because Razor has taken the Intercontinental title off Diesel at SummerSlam. And he mentions that was, of course, because Shawn's super kick knocked him out. Remember this for later. The match starts as it means to go on when Shawn and Diesel get the jump on Razor and the Kid. But the baby, this is so great from the very first second. Obviously, Shawn targets the Kid and Diesel targets Razor because those are the matching sizes. But their baby face is reversed with a do-si-do. So then all of a sudden, the Kid is in a position where he's fighting Diesel. That's not going to work. So the Kid just does a massive spin kick to rattle him. And Razor is the one to clothesline Diesel over the top rope to the floor, leaving the two baby faces with Shawn on their own, allowing Razor Ramon to get a flash Razor's Edge on Shawn that he actually hits for 1, 2, and Diesel pulls the leg. And straight away, right, Shawn is out to the floor. What a fucking idea that was.
That you mentioned speed muscle, exactly. That's what this is like. It's like watching an indie match like 10 years later, 15 years later, like watching Dragon Gates. Like, it's like, what? Like, I've seen this before, but I hadn't remembered that they do that, right? Like, in 1994, how ballsy is that to go straight to the finish? Like, I mean, there's a bit of no selling that follows it, again, suited to the indies of 10 and 15 years later. But like, I literally, my jaw hit the floor when he hit that. And obviously, they do as you mentioned, the pull out to get out of it, and like you say, at that same note, how they get to it with the do-si-do and the switcheroo is so smart as well. Like, it's clearly been thought out. You know, he's got you can imagine the conversation in the car. You know, you're going to hit me with the razor edge. Don't worry, I'm not going to kick out your finish, bro. I'm not going to kick out your finish in like the first 25 seconds of the match. We'll do this, we'll do that, and then I'll get pulled out the ring and we'll go there. But it's like straight away grabs your attention, straight away tells you what type of match this is. It's like a party indie match. You mentioned the commentary team. Exactly. That's what it is. It's like one of those AEW matches where it's the time when you want old man Tony Schiavone like cheering along and clapping along and just enjoying all the moves. And you don't want miserable Jim Ross sat in the corner moaning about the selling. You get that same thing here. You don't get miserable Jim Ross sat in the corner. You get Todd Bettingill and Vince for his, everything you could say about him, cheering it along and just loving it because they don't want anything more intelligent than this. It's like, give me the moves, brother.
So, like, as part of because I would agree, I would say the one thing this match lacks at points, and only at points, is some selling where it's like you've kind of got to like suspend your disbelief a little bit. But in the construction, I think if they weren't rushing through the spots, they've actually still got it right. So Diesel has pulled Shawn's leg out to the floor, and they basically decide in that moment just to walk out on the match. Like, and even though the match is barely a minute old, it makes sense that he would walk out because Shawn's literally just been hit with the razor's edge. So Diesel is carrying Shawn, like he's got his arm around him, carrying him to the back, and already the illustration is made visual that Diesel is both the muscle and the backbone of this tag team. And this is going to factor in Diesel's going to win the world title as a babyface a month later. So they're already planting those seeds. So the champions go to leave. Razor, as the stronger of the two baby faces, punches out Diesel, throws Shawn back into the ring. Kid manages to get a 2 count on Shawn, who's still a little bit rattled. But in picking Shawn up, Shawn goes to the eyes, and that's how he's able to take control. Again, if I'm being nitpicky, I wouldn't have minded that sequence lasting longer because that's pretty much Shawn's recovery. But from A to B to C, you can at least see how they've got there. So the eyes gets the advantage on the 1-2-3 Kid, but the Kid still manages to reverse a whip, just knocks out a moonsault crossbody press for another 2 count, and then leaps on Shawn's back for like a sort of forward victory roll Hurricane Rana type thing for another 2. Then he goes for a running Hurricane Rana, which Shawn counters into a power bomb before he's finally able to tag Diesel. And Benno, I checked on the clock. This match is 2 minutes and 58 seconds old.
That's what I had written down. A razor's edge and a powerbomb. Like, what year of this match from? Like, it's insane. It's insane. And the other thing, it's like you can see Diesel on the apron. It's like, is he a bit annoyed there that Shawn's just doing powerbombs now? Like, what? Like, who called the kick call out on the fly? It's unbelievable. Honestly, it's like not anything else you'd see from 1994. Like, I was standing and pacing.
That kid, that kid where he leaps onto Shawn's shoulders for the victory roll, which obviously, you would then go on to see Lightning Kid do it against Jerry Lynn or Sabu when you finally got your tapes when you were older.
Yeah.
But that's what we would consider now like a Kenny Omega spot, isn't it? Like that, the way that he kind of, Shawn is not like lowering himself for Kid to get on. That is just a vertical leap onto Shawn's shoulders. And what's great about, because you've illustrated there immediately that the Kid, like as we've always known with him, will sort of do whatever he can to deal with the disadvantages because of his smaller size. In illustrating that Kid is even smaller than Shawn, when Diesel tags in, it's like the equivalent of Godzilla savaging an entire town, isn't it? Like the commentators put it over. It's like, Kid was smaller than Shawn, so now Diesel's here. Well, the Kid's pretty much dead. Remember that, because that'll matter later. Diesel gets Kid and just beels him 100 foot across the ring. And then when the Kid tries to counter with a sunset flip and Diesel does the balancing thing, he just lifts him up and does a choke bomb, which again involves throwing the Kid. It's not your standard one where it's the heel hitting the deck. It's the Kid just launched himself off this choke bomb. It's like, I typed, Kid sells this as if he's been thrown off a building. And then Todd Pettingill says almost the same thing as I was typing it. I was just, that is the look. That is like watching somebody take a tumble off a high place.
He's the MVP in this match, Kid. Like, 'cause when you put it like that, absolutely. You know, we just on GRAPPL, we just reviewed, like, we did like a Sabu career retrospective, and we found ourselves, you know, looking at Minnesota and seeing a young Lightning Kid in there with Sabu and seeing a Jerry Lynn in the background. This is exactly what he was doing on the Indies. He's just brought it to telly, hasn't he? He's brought it to the WWF. But what comes with it, as well as all like the big flashy offense and the big moves, it is how great an underdog he is, how great he is at selling. That having the cake and eating it too. We have a stupid indie spot fest, but logically thought out for the first 5 minutes, and then it settles into, obviously we get double heat, but it settles into that first second heat where he's fighting from underneath, and there's no scrappier underdog babyface, you know, than Kid as well. It's brilliant stuff.
Oh, I mean, well, like, so the Diesel's got control over Kid, but then he throws the Kid into the ropes. Kid drop kicks out of a Diesel flapjack attempt, and Diesel bumps for the drop kick, which the fans go insane for. And then Kid manages to get the tag out, and it's Diesel and Razor, which now looks like an even fight compared to the Kid, because Razor's obviously so much bigger. And it's like, you need Razor in there because he's the only one close to neutralize, even potentially neutralize Diesel. They were always great together. Like, Diesel and Razor exchanging punches always looked fantastic. Diesel pinballs around for Scott Hall, because of course he does. Shawn Michaels takes a mental bump from even attempting to distract Razor Ramon. He like climbs up onto the middle and top rope and just puts his face in Razor's way. Razor absolutely wobbles him with his punch, and Shawn just goes flying off a single punch. And then Razor turns around and hits Diesel with a body slam. Fans come up for that. Razor gets a 2 count off a power slam, because he may as well have just wrecking balled a building with a simple act of a power slam. Diesel manages to recover, hits a short arm clothesline, and it just keeps illustrating the difference that, like, if you're going to bring the match to a halt, it's Diesel that's going to do it. Shawn's the gobshite. Shawn's got the flashy moves, but Diesel's the difference maker. And again, watching this with the context of knowing they're about to go with Diesel as the babyface world champion, I think enhances like how much they're starting to pepper into the storytelling. Maybe one of the reasons why it took the Kliq a while to get this match is because there was a right time for it. And they're not just thinking about having this great match. They're thinking about, right, what 4 stories do we individually need to tell the audience about ourselves? And I mean, it's fair to say they're lining Diesel up as well as WWF did for this title run. Yeah.
The only problem is when the title run comes, the training wheels are off, because the benefit Diesel's got here is, like, both in kayfabe and non-kayfabe terms, it's Shawn calling the shots, isn't it? You can believe that, like, it's Shawn, you know, again, in a kayfabe sense, telling, you know, Diesel what to do and how to dominate the action. But you can tell, like, behind the scenes too, it's Shawn, and to an extent Kid and Razor, telling Diesel where to be the most effective. Like, turns out, probably the best way Diesel could have been world champion in 1986 was if he had, like, Shawn as his own personal Jose Lothario in his corner or something. Maybe we could have done that, or could have got Kids in that role maybe instead. But, like, this was always the most effective I think Diesel ever was, when he was either opposite Shawn or Brett, or, you know, usually Shawn in his corner on his side as well, because he's just incredible. House on fire.
What's great here is, like, the fans are going nuts for the baby faces, and all 4 wrestlers are selling exhaustion at the 4-minute mark because they've all been hit with big moves. It's actual believable exhaustion, because they're going at 100 miles an hour, and they've all taken the licks. The heels manage to finally cut the ring off, and we get, like, our first commercial break. And when we come back from that, it's Razor again trying to recover from Shawn. Like, when it's Shawn in the ring, Razor always has a sniff of a comeback, and then Shawn cuts it off, tags Diesel, and they're able to cut the ring off again. Shawn off a Razor Ramon back suplex attempt makes an awesome blind tag.
Oh my God.
He leans backwards, he tags Diesel, he hits the ropes, he slides under Razor's legs to turn Razor around, and who's there? Diesel, who, no pun intended, trucks him with the clothesline to reset him again. What a fucking spot, man. Benno, God damn it. Oh
if there's no indie wrestlers listening to this, and if there are, steal that spot. Like, that is like, as far as like a big man tag team where you've got like, you could imagine FTR doing it, couldn't you? But it wouldn't be as effective. You need that Shawn Diesel dynamic to make it work. It's beautiful stuff.
And Shawn had such a way with Razor, and like you see this in the ladder matches as well. Shawn had such a way of simultaneously been able to position himself as Razor's size, and then sometimes make him seem like he was half a foot shorter. You know, like how he could be the little man against Razor. Like when he slides under his legs, it's like he's sort of just getting away with it. But then when he needed to, he could like almost like beef his shoulders up and go like punch for punch with him. They do it's a nothing, but it's an everything. They do a double team stinger splash on Razor where it's Diesel whipping Shawn, and Shawn just sells it as if he's just been shot out of a cannon by Diesel, and he just blasts Razor in the corner. That gets a 2. We've had about 15 2 counts at this point. Shawn tags Diesel back in, and they double team Razor while Kid, getting frustrated because he's always the impetuous one, he's always the immature one. He distracts the ref and he keeps falling into the trap. And Diesel and Shawn have got the effective double teams. Remember this for later. Diesel gets a sidewalk slam and it only gets 2. Shawn tags back in and he goes for his beautiful Randy Savage elbow drop, but only from the second rope because Randy Savage is still in the company at this point. So he can't obviously take the full one just yet. That only gets a 2 count. Shawn gets the chin lock on. And that's the first point that I noted that the action came to any kind of pause. And they barely have a minute to rest because the crowd are so into Razor Ramon that they've got to like get back to their feet because the crowd are going, Razor. And it's like, well, we needed a breather, but we can't take one because like the fans are just ready for us to get back into it. So they work up to like the usual frenzy where Razor powers out and manages to get 2 off a backslide, but then Shawn just gets a drop kick to assume control. And once again, the heels are back in charge.
Sorry, mate. It's not a backslide. It's a razor's edge, according to the commentary that Vince calls it. Like, it's definitely not the razor's edge, mate. That feels like that was a Jim Rossism, if anything. But yeah, like that's the thing. I mean, that's the. Again, there's this point, and there's obviously the point with Kid just comes in the ring where it feels like things have gotten a little bit lost, but it's like they need that moment too. They need that moment to regroup. And as much as we joke, they called all this in the van. We're still in an era where a lot of it will have been laid out in the van, but they're still trying to call spots and they're still trying to get everybody right in the right positions. And it feels like a reset moment for the match, but they don't have much time to reset themselves at all.
It's over to Diesel after that, who gets snake eyes and then just delivers these elbow drops where the bumps he is taking on his massive hips just to deliver those elbows look amazing. The heels, again, keep getting away with the double teams. It's working a treat. The Kid's getting more frustrated. Razor tries to break out of like this nerve hole that Diesel's put him in, but then Shawn just sneaks this dig in Razor's back with his knee. And then as we talked about, Diesel hits an Ultimate Warrior-esque flying shoulder block completely out of pocket. Like, just air Diesel out of nowhere in the middle of a tag match.
What is he doing? Who told him that was a good idea? Like, I mean, that's one where Shawn's going, don't you should be leaving your feet like that, big man. I think that's, leave that to me.
Just, and then as if to like sort of illustrate the contrast, like Shawn tags back in and the two of them work the abdominal stretch spot where they're both like sort of flipping without tagging, they're pulling on each other's arms, the referee's missing it. It's such basic stuff, but because they've already kind of like treated the fans to a bunch of the high spots, the fans are now coming up just as much for the old-fashioned stuff. This is the stuff that a lot of the Kliq would tell you they were rallying against, but they weren't afraid to do the old stuff when they knew it would work. And sure enough, gets the fans in. They're absolutely fuming in Shawn and Diesel's corner, particularly when the referee goes round to the corner to like see if there was any arm pulling going on. The fans are pointing, the fans are screaming at the ref, no, like he's doing it. When you go back, they're going to do it again. You can see the animated faces, which is great in the crowd. We have a commercial break again, and that cuts back to the heels still having Razor in the corner, but he won't die. Again, it's always Shawn Michaels that Razor makes the comeback on. Shawn's starting to tire himself out with punches. He's having to run off the ropes because he's got no spring in his step anymore. And because of that, Razor is able to fight back. Shawn spins out of an arm drag attempt here, right? And it looks kind of like it's a botch because it's all quite scattered. But then Michaels sprints into a Uranagi like off Razor that it looks so impressive. It makes me wonder if that was just the only way they could think to get into the position for the spot.
They wanted to get to the double down, didn't they, at that point?
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe. I mean, the sweaty as well. I reckon there was probably more likely what it was is that was the point they were going to get to, but there were going to be 2 more steps before they got there. You know, there was going to be another rope run, there was going to be another bump or something like that, and Shawn's probably just called, "You're an argument, brother," and they do that for the double down. But it works either way, doesn't it? They get back. That's the great workers. They get back to where they were supposed to be, regardless.
And here we go, Benno. So for the millionth time, Razor tags the Kid. And this is really well shot because all you're watching is Razor tagging the Kid and the commentators are going nuts. But the camera pulls away to reveal that the heels have taken the ref and the referee hasn't seen the tag. Oh, no. The dudes with attitudes are going to pull off yet again their 15th perfectly successful double team mover. But no, they're not, because Diesel holds Razor up for the super kick. And Shawn hits the big man for the second time on television. And Diesel goes out to the floor and he is out. This was the move that cost Diesel the Intercontinental title. This was the move that, for all Diesel's strength, we know he's got that glass chin when he's been hit with that super kick, and he is out like a light. He is lying on the apron just so like the last person watching on TV can see. This 7-foot body feels like he fills the majority of that 20-foot ring until Razor kicks him to the floor. But like Diesel is out like a light. Kid finally gets the tag and he kicks the fucking shit out of Shawn Michaels. Kick, educated feet. Shawn's bumping around like Ric Flair and a million pinballs for every kick that Waltman hits him with. He flies over the floor, but Kid doesn't let him rest. He hits him with a cannonball tope. He throws him back in the ring. He's basically realized that Diesel's out for the count. If we're going to get Shawn, we're going to get him now. But Shawn keeps kicking out. A missile dropkick gets a 2. Kid tags out a Razor, who hits a sack of shit on Shawn. Kid's still in the ring, so Razor sack shit Kid into Shawn, and that's my favorite spot. Oh my god. Razor goes to the back suplex onto Shawn. Shawn, acting in total desperation, rolls the weight, but Razor rolls the weight back, so you think the heel counter is actually a babyface one. You're fucking throwing your own babies in the air at this point. I'm losing my goddamn mind. Diesel's still out cold. Razor and Kid survey the scene, and Razor's like, I know what Shawn used to do. They go for a rocket launcher onto Shawn. Another 2. The crowd are losing their minds. There's one more tag to Razor as Shawn desperately tries to resuscitate him. And then when he turns around, Razor just clothesline from hell's him. Shawn is still out, but he gets another 2. And when Razor finally goes to kick Diesel out, so Shawn can't bring him back to life, Shawn is able to just jump on Razor's back and gradually wear him down with a sleeper for the next heat. I'm losing my goddamn mind, mate.
It's incredible. Like, so many points there. Like, Kid is just that. I say his selling's great, but like those comebacks where it's just fucking move, spin kick, it's drop kick, it's like, and he goes back to the top and he comes down and he's back. No one else is doing this in 1994. Yeah. It's fucking. A lot of the old timers, I'm sure, were fuming backstage that that he was doing it, but like he's hitting like 4 or 5 high spots in like this 10 seconds, which is 4 or 5 more high spots than a lot of the rest of the roster would work their entire career, and he's just laying them on thick. But like you mentioned there, I love that juxtaposition of Shawn and Diesel, you know, having their teamwork together and doing all the double teams, and you know they've been the team for longer, so that makes sense. But for like Kid and Razor's version of double team is like Razor's I'll just fucking throw you at him, mate. I think that will probably work, and it does. Like the fall away slam, I literally jumped up. I was sat right on that bed watching that telly, and I literally I was shit, there's people up below me, I'm going to be making too much noise. Like, unbelievable. And then, to follow up with the gorilla press throw as well. It's brilliant stuff. And, all the while, like, Diesel's laying there, like, somebody's cutting a pipe bomb behind them while a really bad cameraman is getting the shot. It's fucking it's superb, isn't it? And it's shown, you mentioned it there, but, like, can't underestimate it. Like, just because they've done all that subtle work through the match that, like you say, it's only Shawn that Razor keeps getting like the better of, and Diesel's always there to do the cut-off. Diesel's always there to bring the momentum back. Shawn's sheer panic that Diesel's out, that like he's just trying to resuscitate him, trying to get him back in the match because he knows he's fucked. Only, and the only way he can find out is to just use all his fucking body weight and just slow this Shawn Michaels of all people, slow this fucking thing down. It's great stuff.
It's I just say like right, how on earth now can I slow this down considering that I've got Kid going 100 miles an hour? He's on Razor's back and like Razor is so drained of energy that you can kind of believe that he might actually go out and stay out. The camera pans to Diesel on the floor at this point. He was face down and done. And all of a sudden, we're back in the ring, and the desperation strategy has worked, and it looks like the arm's going to go for 3. But Kid, now with no Diesel to concern himself with, just runs in and boots Shawn Michaels out of the sleeper hold. He's like, takes 2 to tango and all that sort of thing.
I think you made the case for it, because my original note on was like, that's a bit cheap. Like, I feel like there'd be a more like convoluted spot that he put together for Kid to break it up, and he just gets in, he kicks him in the head. But no, I think when you put it like that Diesel's taken out of the picture, and that's the logical reason why. I was just thinking maybe, there was something more like, something more complicated, and somebody's forgotten where they're supposed to be. But these 4, it probably was the idea. That's maybe coloured that for me.
It's quite cute though, because obviously, like Razor's, it's now Razor's job to try and get the tag to the Kid, and Shawn, rather than obviously trying to do something about it, keeps like lurching over the ropes to check Diesel's still out. Like, he's got no corner to go to make the tag in contrast, while the babyfaces seemingly have the advantage. And then Razor kind of like, they find themselves, they sort of meet in the middle before Razor's able to make the tag, and we get the Shawn Michaels catapult cell where he flies into the post, like that one that he just bounces off as he always does, and Razor is like just about out, but with all of his energy, he's now able to start crawling to the corner. But in the meantime, the giant the monster is finally rising back out of the sea, and Diesel slowly,
you're on the rope, like
one rope at a time, is trying to climb up. And all of a sudden, there's multiple different races going on. You've got Shawn, if he can recover himself to get back to his heel corner, might be able to tag this recovering Diesel. You've got Razor trying to get over to the babyface corner to make a tag to the Kid, and you've got to watch all these things at the same time, and it's great for your own energy is now matching that of the wrestlers in the ring. You're just as knackered as them, wondering how's this going to play out. Razor tags, and the Kid hits an unbelievable leg drop from the top. The connection on it is gorgeous. Shawn is just managed. It's not a kick out anymore. He can just about roll the shoulder, but you're thinking that's it. Shawn's out of lives. If they get him with one more move, he is done. But Kid goes for an Irish whip, the one thing that Shawn Michaels has probably got the power to reverse, because he's just that bit bigger than the Kid. He reverses Kid, and as Kid comes back off the ropes, it happens to be at the moment that Diesel is stepping over the top rope. And what does he do when he steps over the top rope? He leads with his big boot. The big boot catches the Kid, and what did we know from the very first spot in this match? If it's the Kid and Diesel, the Kid is fucked. And what happens? 1, 2, 3. The champions retain and get out of Dodge with their belts in hand. What a fucking match!
That finish I would describe as the pop the balloon finish. That's what a lot of wrestlers miss these days. Not to be like the Jim Cornette, but like, you see matches like this, and like, it's near fall, and they always kind of end the same way, whether it's the babyface or the heel winning. The heel's going to win in a match like this. It should be against the run of play. It should be like, because they've done, what have they done all match? Whipped us into a frenzy to the point where, as you say there, you're staring at the screen going, just need Razor to get to Kid first, and we fucking got this. Diesel's not quite made it back yet. Just get Shawn now. We've got this. And the crowd are getting more mental and more mental and more mental. And that's the moment, as the heels, where you pop that fucking balloon and let the air out of it. And like, that's exactly what they do. And it's short, it's sharp. I can't think of any other occasion I've seen Diesel do that, where he's paired the step over the top with the big boot, but it's perfectly timed as well, and it's the perfect just snap, and it's over, and you're out of there. And it's like, you've achieved the two things. You've given everyone the exhilarating match with all these exhilarating moments, but you've also given us the heel win. You've also, against the run of play, put these heels over strong, especially Diesel, because it's not cheap either, is it? It's not like he's he's got a belt, or he's it's a ref distraction and the rope's been pulled down or something like that. It's just Shawn and Diesel outwitting the baby faces just that one last time, just with that that smarmy heelness that they've got, that they can pull out the locker. And it's just incredible. Puts Diesel over strong, like you say, thinking about the future, and just the perfect punctuation on what an amazing match.
Well, this is it. Like, it's such elegant booking. If I've not waxed lyrical enough about the content of the match, it is such elegant booking. And 1994 was low-key a good year for that with WWE. If you think about all the little Bret and Owen details and a lot about Shawn and Razor and like how Diesel ultimately came to turn babyface. If you just look at this match, so it's the second time that Shawn has kicked Diesel, and obviously the rule of 3, it's going to be the Survivor Series one that ends the team forever, because at this point Diesel has managed to forgive and forget. Now, he nearly lost his marbles at SummerSlam because it's cost him the Intercontinental title. But why has he forgiven the second one? Because they've retained the belts. If they lose the belts, there's no reason for Shawn and Diesel to stay together after yet another super kick. But Diesel's been willing to forgive because they've got it done. Simultaneously, it's put Diesel over as a babyface backbone of a unit that can win a match quickly, ahead of him squashing Bob Backlund for the world title at WrestleMania. This guy is an impact player. He's somebody that doesn't need to get paid by the hour, somebody that uses his big moves to win the belt. And it's foreshadowing that Bob Backlund is about to die in Madison Square Garden when they have that jackknife and it's all over. But what does it leave behind? It leaves behind the detail that Diesel's kryptonite might be the super kick. And sure enough, when you get into Shawn Michaels and Diesel, if he gets hit with it, what have we seen? We've seen Diesel lose 2 matches with the SummerSlam and the Survivor Series and be knocked out for the second half of a tag match. So we know, if nothing else, the super kick is lethal on Diesel. How much have they put in here while they're having a fuck you match to the rest of the locker room? Like, this is an unbelievable bit of business.
Superb stuff. I'm so glad it got picked as a match, because like it's one of those early ones you talk about, like fandom and stuff. It's like one of those ones that was in torrent packs and was always a recommended one. But to see it in that context, like you say, to see what was to come, to see the seeds planted for the Shawn and Diesel stuff again, timely, we've just covered, like just wraps it up in an amazing little bow. It's just the Kliq, mate. I'm so, and it's a perfect bow for us as well, because we are like, this is really us leaving the Kliq fed now, isn't it? It's like, you know, NWO's off to the races and things are very split up. What a great, goodbye this is. I prefer this to the curtain call. This is the proper curtain call.
I fully agree. It's a nicer way to think of it, and because it replaces Shawn Waltman with Triple H, and one was always better than the other. So
everyone's a winner. If only wrestling history could have done that, would have been a different place.
No, thank you so much, Shawn, for that request. We are very grateful. And yes, as we said at the start of that, if you would like us to wax lyrical about a favourite from your time, it can be of this era, it can be of a completely different era. It can feature wrestlers who are in your house bubble, but maybe not on an in your house show. It can be anything up to and including the absolutely appalling John Cena take on the pipe bomb. I will not be moved on that take in 2025. If you leave us a 5-star review, we're easily pleased, and we will talk about it. It helps us fool those algorithms, and now without Spotify, we might need to do it all over again. So get in touch, let us know your request, leave us that 5-star review, leave us the comments, all that good stuff. Anywhere you can find us, we are more grateful than ever for these requests, and they're so much fun to go back and review on these housekeepings as well.
Absolutely. Keep coming.
Podbean, was that the one, Benno? Is that right? Podbean is a big
Podbean,
one.
Apple Podcast. Anyone who's left a review so far on Apple Podcast, that should be fine, and Apple Podcast should be up and running again by the time people hear this. But yeah, it's the Spotify ones we might have lost. So as you said earlier, if anybody has sent us a Spotify one before and you're worried we might have missed it, just send us it again. Throw it on a tweet, throw it in a YouTube comment, get it to us however you can, and we'll make sure we don't miss it, and we'll add it to the list. But rest of them should be safe. But any future ones, no more Spotify.
So I suppose before we get out of here, we should probably preview In Your House 9 International Incident, which is really the show in which the Fed attempts to no-sell that they've just become the number 2 wrestling promotion in the United States of America, basically. The first In Your House following the formation of the New World Order, and basically everything changing in wrestling forever. But some things, as they change, remain the same, because we'll be starting with the free-for-all. And in the same way that Savio Vega took on a roughhouse Texan at In Your House, Beware of Dog, he's going to take on the Temu Steve Austin when he takes on Justin Hawk Bradshaw in the free-for-all match. We've got, yet again, more Sunny Tag Law when the Smoking Guns, the WWF Tag Team Champions, take on the Body Donners in a non-title match. We've also got advertised on this show, Mankind versus Jake the Snake Roberts, but we will leave that to Jerry Lawler's sense of humor to see how that one works out. We've got a King of the Ring rematch with Mark Mero and Stone Cold Steve Austin, when your very own Benno and Hamflett were probably favouring one man over another back then, and the results may surprise you. If you loved it last time, get ready for some more, because it's Goldust and The Undertaker going another 12 minutes on pay-per-view. And the main event, as we discussed, the biggest six-man tag in July 1996, as far as I was concerned, that being the upgraded People's Posse of Shawn Michaels, Ahmed Johnson, and a returning Psycho Sid against Cam Cornette of Vader, Owen Hart, and yes, he's still in your house main events, the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. International incident, because it's coming from your favourite place in mine, Benno, my actual old haunt of Vancouver, British Columbia. No wonder these fans were in such a frenzy. They were probably scared of the coyotes in the park. But I'm looking forward to... Our last visit north of the border was Winnipeg, Manitoba in 1995. This can't be worse, can it?
I don't think so. I mean, I've got great memories of that main event. We covered it on GRAPPL on a Shawn biopic, and I think it's a long one, that one. So I'm looking forward to watching that. Just seeing all the baby faces together, like what's not to love about that? But yeah, some of that undercard, not so much. But it'd be interesting to see Bradshaw join the timeline. Uncle Zebekiah in his corner, obviously, as well, which would be a gimmick that would show itself a couple of decades later. But yeah, Mero Austin, I think that's probably the pick of the litter match for us, but we'll see. If Mero does something flippy, I'll be into it, as I was in King of the Ring 96. So that's to look forward to. Undertaker Goldust, less so.
I mean, get used to keep saying that, mate. There's a bit more of that to go, I think. So I suppose, I know, yeah. Before we get out of here, now more than ever, probably seems an appropriate time, doesn't it? Where, Benno, other than... well, frustratingly, the biggest streaming app in the world. Where can people find your fine output elsewhere in the meantime?
Absolutely. You can find it on the biggest streaming app in the world, which is Podbean, definitely. GRAPPL. We're all podcasters, so to be fair, our Patreon is still up and running, unaffected. It seems by our little outages that we've had that unfortunately have had a knock-on effect on Benno and Hamflett as well. So patreon.com/GRAPPL, the place to make sure you get all of our GRAPPL content uninterrupted. It's over there, and there's a free tier there too for you to join too. And then youtube.com/@GRAPPL gets you our video stuff too. But yeah, one last call. Like I say, if you've gotten this far, clearly you've heard us somewhere or watched us perhaps on YouTube, but like genuinely appreciate everyone's patience, appreciate you're finding your way back to us, and hopefully this will not happen again, and we'll be on a more solid footing going forward. But I'd like to end this with saying something like fuck Spotify, but Michael's a professional podcaster, so I don't want to interrupt any possible future relationships you might have with them. So we wish Spotify luck in their future endeavors, and we'll look forward to future endeavors ourselves. But yeah, you should be able to find us everywhere else now.
That's very nicely put. And I will say, seeing as you were kind enough to say that, I am a very proud Patreon subscriber to GRAPPL, and it gets my highest recommendation as well. If the Spotify situation is kind of causing upset in your typical access to GRAPPL, stick the couple of quid in and sort the boys out in your feeds, because it's worth absolutely every penny. After we finish recording, I've seen as we've said before, Benno, that magic 3 at the start of the number of the story of Ring of Honor vs CZW that's just dropped in my Patreon feed. So I'm looking forward to putting the time aside and getting to listen to that as well and reliving some of those big matches. So yes, take this as a hearty recommendation. That GRAPPL Patreon is well worth it.
And you might well find a familiar face over there at some point in July as well. But more on that on the next Benno and Hamflett.
This is the only problem. I've heard some rumours that you let any old reprobates on that side of the channel. So yeah, that's we'll not say any more of that before people change their minds and invest. But if you absolutely do feel like you need more of my bollocks, you can get it through the WhatCulture Wrestling podcast, which is Touchwood still on Spotify for the time being, but it's available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. It's all the regular weekly reviews of Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, Dynamite, and Collision, as well as the pay-per-views and whatnot. And yes, we'll be back for definite on YouTube, on Podbean, and all those other good places. And until next time, Benno, thanks for the house.